Ashlanders, there's a new podcast in town, The Bad Girl's Guide to Town Government. It's of the people, by the people, and for the people. An opportunity for citizens to express themselves on their own terms. And it takes place right here at WACA-TV in the information parlor. And one of the reasons we are calling it that is because we feel that we kind of have one-sided information in town, and you really need all the different sides of the information. Okay, so today's conversation will be co-hosted by Kate Jerzyk and Julie Nardone. And before we launch into today's topic, we always start out with the upbeat corner. And would you like to?
Yeah, I'd
Kate?
like to, and I also want to remind that we still honor Jim Hanna as a co-host. And again, thank you for the opportunity for co-hosting with you on Conversation 3.
Yes.
So Upbeat Corner, the Village Burial Ground, I think people may have heard about the project, is coming along with a lot of community. It started as a community effort and a lot of town support. I was on the I think we called it just working group, as a citizen. And the particular thing I wanted to just mention was that through the various connections, we were able to get Bridgewater State to come and do ground penetrating radar survey of the project, which we believe there's probably unmarked graves, and the whole story about graves got moved to the new cemetery. So that's an ongoing project. It will continue in the spring. The particular thing, though, Upbeat Corner, is it was so fun when there was the cemetery. Just it came alive with a lot of younger people. Students came from various classes, 3 different professors, I think, combined, and they were excited about our community. They were asking about our community. It was really fun to see them. And I think just an interesting byproduct I realized is that they also were supporting town in other ways. We took a lunch break. They went to lunch and ate at local establishments. Yeah. And that will be ongoing, so if you hear about it, you're welcome to come down and participate. You get to actually use the ground penetrating radar yourself.
Oh, you can?
Correct.
Oh, that's cool.
So I think it's I'm assuming it will kind of be not happening again till the spring, but that will be ongoing, so.
Yeah, I just think the cemetery project is it's a draw for the downtown. I mean, you go there and it's like peaceful back there and quiet. It's a place you can really go to get away from the noise. Okay, so, and then I'm going to do today's inspirational quote, which is, "I would rather be accused of breaking precedents than breaking promises." And that was John F. Kennedy. All right, so today's riveting topics are, we're going to talk about town branding, briefly free crash, the tri-board meeting with the override, and broken promises. And I don't think we'll have time for the last topic, which would be information in government. We'll do that next time. All right, so Kate, why don't you tell us about your experience on the road?
So I think the branding comes from, I've been telling everyone since I got back on trip, on the way back from a road trip, ended up in Seneca Falls and turned off the road because they had a women's history museum. So that is a neat, I'm a history nerd, that's a neat anchor. But when we got there everybody was just excited, like literally, I mean, a lot of people were park rangers or volunteers who came across people that the town of Seneca Falls believes they were the model for It's a Wonderful Life movie. So the entire weekend, every year they have a celebration, right? So they pretend on that weekend they're Bedford Falls.
Oh,
and
so cool.
This is, we are family in Seneca Falls, no one is a stranger, kind of their motto.
Yeah.
So they actually value history, and I think what I saw is it was a community glue, and I also imagine, if you look through the pamphlet, that it was also bringing people in. I actually saw a news clip of it, and a woman said, "I'm not from here, I discovered it, and I'm going to come back," hours away driving. So I think it also brings people to the community.
Yeah, I would like to go there.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned it, I did a quick Google. They have It's a Wonderful Life museum.
Yeah.
It seems like they have a museum trail of maybe like, I want to say 7 museums. And they've got, I found a picture, of course, of a mill building by a waterway, which kind of segues nicely into our own inability to brand ourselves, even though we have an incredible branding story with Henry Warren and all the buildings he touched. He was in the mill buildings that are partially coming down, which is just, it's totally tragic and unfortunately self-inflicted.
Yeah, I think there's, I mean, I wonder, you know, I can't say in Seneca Falls, I think they probably capitalized when the national park came there, because I talked to them, and that building that they restored was like a laundromat and something, like, so they had to go back in time and sort of restore some things. It wasn't always honored that same way, but we could be the innovation community, right, and capitalize. It doesn't even have to be simply Henry Warren, like that's a big deal.
Exactly.
But and then Old Connecticut Path comes right through our town, and we sort of forget about that. And then, I mean, maybe the Witches' Caves, maybe that's a fallacy, maybe that's a myth, but it might be like the Bedford Falls myth. It's okay. I think there's lots of opportunity for branding, and I think branding's just something to coalesce around.
Yeah.
And I think we should do that. And of course, for me, history would be a great way to do that.
And I loved history too. I think it was called social studies when I was in school, but I really loved it. I'm going to briefly talk about another town that has done a good job with branding. It's Point Pleasant, West Virginia. It's on the Ohio, and I think it was the Caruga or the Canuga rivers came together. And it's famous because there was a movie called The Mothman Prophecies. I love to talk about movies.
Yeah.
And it was this weird winged creature with red eyes that was showing up. And it all kind of built up to the Silver Bridge collapsed. I think it was December 15th, so around this time of year, in 1967, the stoplight had backed up all the traffic, and the bridge couldn't hold up. But they just capitalized on it. They've got a Mothman museum, festivals, everything about the bridge, and they've got 4,000 people. I also looked up Seneca Falls, they've got 9,000 people, and all these cool buildings, and I don't know, I'm just not sure what we're doing, and we never have an opportunity to even examine what we're doing. Like, no one's allowed to just say, where are we going with this? Which is one of the reasons we've got the show, so that people can have a voice about, you know, it's not like shut up and sit down. It's, come on, it's like stand up and talk and, you know,
So the
join each
historic
other.
preservation really is, I mean, it's right if you go to the Seneca Falls website, right? And I just wrote down a couple of the things that they believe contributes to community pride, adds to the character of the town, and then attracts investment, because sometimes these older buildings are not kept up, but once you get somebody to make an investment, you can start seeing the potential. So among the many, many reasons of historic preservation makes sense for a town, you know, with that is an angle that we should look at.
Yeah, I mean, the Main Streets program by the National, what is it, the National Preservation of Historic
National Trust
Places.
for Historic.
Yeah, Trust. And I think Hudson was one of their #1 main streets, and again, we did vote, well, I didn't, vote down the historic district, which honestly, every other town does it, and it really brings the town together, it brings it alive, it helps you do your branding. Again, we do things that just kind of don't make any sense. But, all right, so the next thing, the next thing we're going to briefly talk about free cash. You were at the town meeting, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so we were both at the town meeting. And they always start with, I think it's like Article 2, and I think it was about 3 million. And I just want people to understand that free cash is a surplus. What you decide to do with the surplus, or if you think we need a surplus or we don't have a surplus, I mean, that's all things to talk about. But when we're told we have a deficit, and they often do that at the beginning of the year, we so far have never had a deficit because we had the free cash. So, anyways, what are your thoughts?
I'm pretty conservative financially, so I like the idea that we are.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the policies they made, that it's sort of pre-decided of if there's free cash where they go, had some thought, so I like that. And I think you probably don't need to run that high of a deficit, I mean, of a surplus, right? And I think we heard a little bit of that in the tri-board meeting, that they're gonna try to ratchet that down a little bit. And it is, I mean, it's hard to make these projections exact, right? There's people moving into town, out of town.
Mm-hmm.
How much your car is valued affects how much money the town gets. So it's a moving target. I agree with all of that. But I think it's really important, like I said, to remind people that free cash it's still our tax dollars and to be used wisely.
Yeah, I mean, one issue I do have with it is, again, the people are not invited to have a say in where the money goes. They have this policy. It's funny. They've got a policy, and then I think it was either this special town meeting or the one before, where it was like, oh, well, we'll just change it. And it's like, well, you change it for yourself, but you don't let the people ever change it for themselves. And, there's different things that people need, that people want, or this fixed or that. And we're just really excluded from most conversations. There are the comprehensive plan. People were absolutely invited to talk into that. In general, anything that gets near the budget, even though we're paying for it, we don't have much of a say, and I really would like to see that change.
I think, absolutely. I think that, and what I imagine is from a position of leadership, they are complicated, right? And so it takes time to have people informed and make good decisions. But that's the work of leadership, to bring the public along, to be able to make good decisions.
I mean, I guess I don't understand this. I don't even know what to call it. Fear of the public, contempt for the public. I don't know what it is, but it's like, well, I have a personal example later on, but I don't understand it. Do you?
I do not. What I would surmise is it's easier to try to do your job to the best of your ability well without a distraction, because the public is a distraction. What needs to be forefront is your public servants and public service. And so is your job easier without a bunch of people asking questions and wanting to know things? Yep, right? And so I think it's sort of that, and I would like to see a reset of how do we be more public-facing forefront and have that in our mind.
Oh, I love that, public-facing. Because, I mean, one can make the argument that, we could do our jobs better, but your whole job is serving us.
Exactly, yes.
So, I mean, when you want to cut out the people that you're serving, because if you look at any other business, they're always doing market research, they're always trying to find out what their customers want.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote, bad girls push for their voices to be heard.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know if we're going to put a booklet together or T-shirts. I'm definitely going to make a T-shirt of this Bad Girls Guide to Town Government, just on the podcast. You might not see it. All right. So the next thing we're talking about is very exciting. And there were 2 tri-board meetings, one on October 22nd and one on December 10th. And I first want to applaud whoever did it, that they were actually filmed. Because I've been asking since like 2000, I don't know, 18, 17, that these tri-board meetings,
Now, are the finance committee meetings filmed?
no, and
Okay.
that is like, when you just have pet peeves.
Mhm.
Um, our finance committee meetings are not filmed, and we are the only town that doesn't film our finance committee meetings. And, if you want to keep the public in the dark, don't film them. But if you want to bring us into the light and let us know what's going on and let us ask questions, then film them.
And I think that's a great point, because I was out of town when the December 10th tri-board, but I came back and watched it. When I started logging on, it had 234 views. Now, that might not be 234 people, it might have been me, I got in and out, right, a couple times, but it's still significant. And I noticed that there were, I didn't count, I couldn't
Yeah.
see, but people spent 3 hours listening just the same way that group sat in the room. It's a
Yeah.
lot, right? It is public service is a lot,
Mhm.
even if it's a volunteer, 3 hours is a lot, right? But if, that is a way that you have to be available to the public, and having them filmed where people can go back and watch them. And WACA does a great job
They do.
of getting things
Yeah,
available.
and all they have to do is ask them to come and film. So I want to briefly, for the October 22nd one, I believe Yolanda had a wonderful suggestion to have a listening tour, because they were being pressured to vote by the staff members. That started out as, we're going to have a straw vote.
Yeah.
That didn't end up happening, but what do you think if you
Well,
understood
I that's a good point. I remember that. I did not attend the 22nd, but I watched the tape, and I thought that was a great idea. And it does not appear that between the 22nd of October and December 10th that happened. So our point about having public input didn't happen beforehand. It doesn't mean it can't and won't happen afterwards. And I know there were several select board members that seemed to continuously raise that point, and
Yeah.
perhaps other committee members that also supported that. But that starts being that uphill battle to have the public understand, right? I watched the meeting, and I think as a member, now I admit they had some papers, the people at the meeting might have had a lot more backup than the public would have by watching it and listening. But for me to make decisions on there, I would say absolutely not adequate information.
Yeah, I watched one, and then I watched live the December 10th one, and the whole point of a listening tour is to find out what the public's thinking. Now, when you have what I call a retroactive listening tour, when they've already decided that they're, and I don't even know what they actually voted on. Did they actually vote to look into the override or to just put the override on? Because I know in the December 10th meeting, they were kind of all over the place, and some of them wanted 1 and 3, and they didn't like 2, but then they ended up picking 3, and because the staff member running the show said that was the one he wanted, and I was like, well, I think if you're going to give people 3 choices, I don't think you should try to push them into one direction. I don't know.
But if you have a leader that has thought about it and recommends, I think that's fair to recommend. But, I mean, I can say, let me give you some of the details. It said, so we know Proposition 2.5 in Massachusetts, you can't raise property tax more than 2.5%. We know often inflation is more than that, particularly healthcare. However, assessments go up. So I do not know the number, with the assessments and the 2.5, how much our budget went up. It's presented as it's not covering, healthcare was 1. So I think, again, as a member of the public, I'd want to know, is there anything we can do about that? Is Ashland paying the same as asking employees to pay the same contribution, right? And I would love to give free healthcare to everyone, okay, but we all know that's not practical.
Right.
So maybe we have to look at that. And maybe, I'm always cautious about why compare with other towns. What I want from my leadership is to make the numbers work, right? So if it takes an extra contribution, it was mentioned that pensions aren't keeping up, but how do the pensions not, like, is that because we're creating positions and there's more
We-
pension obligation? Because that wasn't explained. And again, I admit that someone sitting in the room may have had all kinds of backup of that, but as a member of the public listening, I would not be able to understand that.
I'm not sure because again, they don't really give you much information. I think that backup was the stuff they were presenting. Because I just don't feel like there were any really strong questions asked about, well, what's the co-pay or what?
So explain how those things aren't keeping up, would be my first
Explain
question,
it,
yeah.
and again, we are not, if you watch the one on the, what is it, the 10th, the 22nd, we don't have a freeze. We're still hiring. We're doing business as usual, and then saying to the public, "Oh, we have." I don't use the word deficit. I think the word deficit is
Overspending.
really overspending, because let's face it, it's a choice. If you want to overspend your budget, even before you even have your, I mean, this conversation is basically, we want to overspend before we even start, and we want you to subsidize it.
And I think that's a good point. Another thing is if when COVID started, surrounding towns were having hiring freezes. And we did not, we said everything was good, right?
Yeah.
And the conversation now is saying, this isn't new, and I imagine it's not, right? Money is always an issue. Could schools use more money and do more? Yes, they could. Could town use more money and do more? Yes. But what it is making the budget work, right? Which is, I believe, the job of town leadership, make the budget work.
Right.
So I think to understand that is, why are we adding these positions, right? If there is, and then I look back at some of the finance committee minutes, I don't recall that being strongly stated that we were for the past 3 years or more.
Yeah.
Have you seen?
I find those meetings, basically, the same two staff come to every single meeting. So I went and I looked it up because I'm like, and it's like they're never unsupervised. The finance committee used to meet every 2 weeks year round, even in the summer. They might miss a few here and there. I know Holliston meets every 2 weeks. I've actually gone to a Holliston finance committee because I just wanted to see what it was like. I think if you want to talk deficit, I think the real deficit is that in our financial oversight. I don't think people are asking good questions. If you just have, two staff members coming to every meeting, sharing their side of a story and nobody else, and then it's not filmed, I just think you're starting off on the wrong foot. So I really think we need to take the finance committee seriously, which we aren't, like the other towns. Film it. They meet all the time. They meet without the same two staff members coming to every single meeting, which, I don't know, makes me really uncomfortable. And, again, it's not filmed.
So here's one, Julie, that I think we can agree there actually is a deficit, is the OPEB.
Okay, yeah, OPEB, there is a deficit, although they keep saying because they've billed ahead of time, new people are paying their OPEB sort of upfront. That's been, and one other thing before I forget, and we're not going to, actually, there's things that I think we're going to have to talk about at the next meeting.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm constantly losing the plot of this town because we've been told, it's been pounded into our heads with that line graph that we need more development. We need more development, even though we have tons of development. The line graph. So it's funny, once I mentioned the line graph, suddenly they got rid of the line graph. But we have absolutely tons of development, and they kept saying we need this development for the budget. So you've got the development for the budget, And now they were literally downplaying the new development.
Yeah, and I
It
think,
was so weird.
I think being cautious is good, as no, they mentioned developments might not happen, but I think that also has to be a discussion. If there's an override, do you wait and see how that works out?
My timer has a mind of its own. Yeah, I mean, it was, then they were, at least what I thought I heard, and I watched it 1.5 times, something like, oh, we're gonna be conservative. Okay, so you're gonna be conservative with the new development, so the override looks better, instead of, you know what I really like? I want like.
The facts.
I want the facts. I just want people to be honest and just, tell us the truth, because I don't feel we're even remotely telling the truth. I don't know what you call it, but it just feels very weird to me. And
Well, I don't know if it's, I can't say, I would think it's untruthful, but I think it's more information. So people were concerned about how are people gonna swallow this? Well, they have to swallow it by starting with information, right? Like
Yes.
true information and
Right.
facts, right? So what did you use for new growth and why?
right, and it's
And
like,
what's that basis?
yeah,
Right?
give us err on the side of more information
Exactly.
than almost no information.
I would agree.
I know how I feel when I watch these meetings, and it's really not a good feeling, because the public's left out. Finally, I have to applaud Yolanda again for saying, we seem to have people on the line here. Can we include the public? And this is before they took the vote. And she said that, and then they just kept talking, and then another select board member said the same thing. They just kept talking. Then a third finance committee person said that, and they just kept talking, and they took the vote. So they took the vote, and then they opened it up to the public. And what I said is important, but we're going to talk about it next time. Are you free in January?
Yep.
All right, we're going to talk about it next time, because then we can give it more.
Well, and we can
More,
also hope that the town does start releasing more
Yeah.
specific background information about
Are they watching this
The-
podcast?
budgetary numbers.
They used to watch the show, Jim and I did, so I'm maybe they're watching it, I don't know. Yeah, because I was talking, and then one of the select board members asked me a question that triggered something else I wanted to say, and I hadn't even been talking that long, and then I was told that I was off topic, and then they quickly ended the meeting, and I kept saying I'm not off topic. I mean, none of it was off topic, and there's no such thing as being off topic, because if you ask someone for their comment and they're talking about what they just heard, to then tell them they're off topic is, again, it was very off-putting and not pro people, not pro community, not pro listening, just move along, there's nothing to see here type stuff, which I don't know. I really have a problem with it, because why would you not include
Yeah, I think
the
that's
public?
another deficit, right? A deficit of
Yeah.
public input.
Yes, I'm going to write that down. I love this. See, what we're getting at here is, and wait, and I just want to let you know. What we're getting at here, which I'm really excited about, is we need to make a list of the actual deficits.
Yeah.
I mean, there's these alleged money deficits, but then there's the what do you even call these? Not moral, what's the right word? When you have a deficit of listening and a deficit of letting people participate and a deficit of truly understanding what public service is and what public service isn't. So there's this whole other layer of deficits.
There is, yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be really an awesome topic, too, along with the other stuff we're going to talk about next time. Just you know, one of the reasons that we're doing this program is to try and, you know, enhance things. I don't know if I like the word improve, but what do you think?
I think this is going to continue to be, especially if there's a final vote for the override.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, because they're coming back to look at the money. I mean, again, it felt very premature. It felt premature, like we're in a hurry, let's rush, rush, rush. And I think when people rush, 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 it usually turns into a mess. All right, so I'm just looking for I just want to remind anybody that wants to email us. We are at badgirlsashland@gmail.com. And if we think you might like to be a co-host, we welcome that. I have been talking to various people, and, you know, things that keep you up at night that you're very interested in. We do, every program we do, at least 3 topics, maybe 4. So is there anything you'd like to say before we end?
No, I would just again encourage people to be a co-host and pay attention to things happening in town.
All right, so we want to wish everybody a happy holidays, and we have a great 2026, and we will be back in January. So thank you,
Thank you to WACA.
people. Thank you to WACA. Thank you to the people of Ashland. And I don't know, who else should be thanked? Thanks.